1.0. There was a quiet to space that most found unbearable. But Nalia found it comforting. Deep beyond any charted systems, the stars bled across her console in silence. On the screen, unmapped systems, faint radiation from a nearby dwarf star, a drifting asteroid belt like scattered ash. The Seer's Grace coasted without hurry, its hull designed to soak in the emptiness between worlds and sketch the stories of places no one had ever seen. Nalia sat in her mapping pod, a capsule lined with neural feedback sensors and immersive projection glass. Data whispered to her like the sigh of ocean waves in old Earth myths. She could see the pulse of gravity shifts and taste the faint rise of solar winds. But she was not poetic by nature. This was her job. 2.0. Nalia, the comm chimed softly, breaking the solitude. It was Commander Veen from the bridge. Your turn to take the survey shuttle to the fourth quadrant. She blinked once. Acknowledged, her voice was always quiet, always controlled. She unhooked the interface leads from her temples and spine, feeling her body slowly return from the sensory drift. When she arrived at the hangar, the shuttle was already prepped. But someone was adjusting the coupling valves on the port side. Not a human. Tall. Pale blue skin patterned with bioluminescent lines that pulsed faintly in time with his breathing. His species, the Cellari, were rumored to sense magnetic fields the way humans felt temperature. His long fingers moved precisely, delicately, as he sealed the fuel lines. He turned when she approached. You are Nalia, his voice was deeper than she expected, but soft. Yes. I am Kalen. Engineering assigned me to your survey mission. Atmospheric diagnostics and field calibration. She hesitated only a fraction. Then nodded. Fine. Let's keep it efficient. He followed her into the shuttle. She didn't look at him again. 3.0. The launch was routine. Quiet. They passed through a sparse asteroid belt and curved around a gas giant whose rings shimmered faintly in the star's wan light. Nalia kept her focus on the scanners, noting anomalies in gravitational alignment. She preferred data to dialogue. Kalen, for his part, didn't speak unless spoken to. They worked in silence. Until turbulence struck. A sudden magnetic flare, rare, but possible, burst from the nearby protostar and crashed into the shuttle stabilizers. The system rebooted, but not before the shuttle spun slightly off course and communication links snapped. Alarms blared for a moment, then faded. Nalia's fingers flew over the console. Backup comms are offline. Kalen was already in motion. Life support is stable. We are not in danger. But. He paused, we are temporarily, unobserved. She looked at him. The Seer's Grace won't reach this zone again for another 23 hours. Then we have time. 4.0. Time. It was a dangerous word. With nowhere to go, they set the shuttle into drift mode and floated beside the slow spin of an icy moon. Kalen recalibrated the sensors while Nalia adjusted solar collectors manually. At some point, silence returned, but it was no longer the comforting kind. It was, present. Dense. You prefer to work alone, Kalen said, finally. She didn't look up. Yes. But you do not prefer solitude. Her fingers stilled on the panel. That's a presumption. An observation, he replied, calm. You have woven shields around your body language. Tension in your shoulders. Restrained breathing. It is not solitude you desire. It is safety. She exhaled. Are all Cellari this perceptive? No, his voice was quieter now. Only the ones who are curious. That was the first time she looked at him fully. Kalen's eyes glowed faintly. They reminded her of deep-sea fish, quietly aware in the dark. What are you curious about? You. 5.0. Their temporary isolation created strange intimacy. Without noise, without duty, time stretched. They ate rations in silence. Then shared stories to pass the hours. She told him of her childhood in orbiting colonies, always moving. No home. No roots. Her voice was flat, but something in her tone betrayed regret. He told her he had never left his oceanic world until he joined the Galactic Council's engineering fleet. His people swam in currents that sang, but he wanted to feel silence. To taste vacuum. They talked about things that didn't matter until they did. "Do you believe in bonding?" she asked him once, after a pause in conversation. "You mean, romance?" "Yes. Cellari do not form exclusive pairs by nature. We connect through resonance, a blending of emotion and thought. It is, intimate, but rare. And for you?" He hesitated. "I have not yet resonated. Not fully. Would you want to?" A longer pause. "Yes. If it were true. If it were, her." Nalia looked away quickly, but not before something in her chest pulsed. 6.0. Hours passed. Then sleep. They slept in shifts. But at one point, she awoke from a half-dream and found Kalen watching the stars from the viewport. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "No, not tired." "Thinking?" "Feeling." She slid into the co-pilot's chair beside him. The stars outside were faint, flickering. A nebula curled in the distance. What do Cellari feel, when they fall in love? He turned his gaze to her. Music. But not sound. It's a kind of pressure behind the ribs. Not pain. More like, the ache of a song you don't want to end. Nalia stared at him. "And what about humans?" he asked. "What do you feel?" "Fear," she said quietly. "Mostly fear." He didn't press. Instead, he said gently, "We are not so different." And in the silence that followed, something shifted between them. 7.0. When the seer's grace re-established contact, Nalia almost didn't respond. They were fine. The systems had rebooted. The readings were complete. But something in her heart wasn't ready to return. After the rescue, Kalen was reassigned to the engineering deck. She returned to her mapping pod. But something remained behind. In the week that followed, she found herself looking for his presence. His quiet footsteps. The way he'd hum low tones when aligning magnetic cores. He didn't seek her out, but she knew he felt it too. The ache. Finally, she found him in the observation chamber. The window showed the path of the ship across the unclaimed region. Stars fell away behind them. "Do you remember what you said?" she asked. "About resonance?" "Yes. I remember." She stepped closer. "I think, I hear the song too." He looked at her, and something subtle shifted across his features, a quiet unfolding. The glow in his lines brightened. "Then we are not alone in the silence," he said. And in the hush between stars, she leaned forward. And kissed him. Slowly. Deliberately. Not to test. Not to prove. But to say yes. 1.0. There were 38 known ways to say "I miss you" in Galactic Standard Dialect. Orion knew all of them. He knew the way the Thiril curled their second tongue around the word halesh, which could mean longing, hunger, or the color of morning tides depending on the speaker's breath pattern. He understood the silent press of palms used by the Kinari, a language of pressure rather than sound. And he had once spent 7 weeks immersed in human emotional lexicon just to translate 3 pages of love poetry. But he had never said it to anyone. Not once. As he walked the quiet halls of Valora Prime, Orion repeated phonetic notations under his breath. Gravy Ilan. The term was human. Gravity of longing. Heavy but beautiful. It described the aching pull one felt when someone was near but unreachable. He found it hauntingly accurate. He had no idea yet how soon he would feel it himself. 2.0. His assignment was simple: assist the human envoy in preparing diplomatic language for a multi-species summit. Orion was chosen because of his neutrality. His people, the Hydroth, were rare among sentient civilizations for their emotional restraint and biological empathy. They absorbed emotional signals like waves across water, never reacting outwardly but understanding all the same. So when he entered the translation chamber and saw the human representative, he was not prepared. Not for the chaos. Not for her. "Hey," she waved at him, a wild smile on her face. "You must be my translation partner. I'm Taya." Her skin was sun-darkened, her voice unrefined, her uniform crumpled. She had no concept of stillness. Her words spilled over themselves like a rushing stream. Orion blinked slowly. "I am Orion. I am Hydroth. I have studied your language." "Great," she said, plopping into a chair. "I've been dying to have someone explain what the hell higher ha means in Kinari courtship speeches. I thought I insulted someone last week." "You did," Orion said gently. She laughed. Orion did not. But he smiled, barely. 3.0. They worked together for 6 days. Every morning, she arrived 5 minutes late and always with food in hand. She ate noisily. Orion, who did not require sustenance in the same way, found the sound peculiar. Not unpleasant. Just distracting. By day 3, she asked him if his species had ever fallen in love. "We do not bond in traditional pairings," he replied carefully. "But we feel. Deeply. But you don't act on it. We express it differently." "How?" He hesitated. "We mirror." "Mirror?" "Yes. When we feel for another, we begin to move as they move. Speak as they speak. Slowly. Not mimicry. Resonance." Taya was quiet for once. "That's kind of beautiful," she said softly. 4.0. On the 7th night, the summit began. Diplomats flooded Velora Prime. Colors, dialects, phenomenal expressions, Orion processed it all like a symphony of tension and peace. Humans, as usual, were poorly understood. Too expressive. Too emotional. Too easily dismissed. And yet. During a break in the proceedings, Orion stood on the balcony overlooking the lower gardens. Taya found him there. "You disappeared. I needed silence. Too many feelings." "Yes." She stepped closer. Her body radiated warmth. Emotion spilled from her impulses. "You've been copying me," she said quietly. Orion said nothing. "You lean when I lean. You blink when I blink. You laugh, kind of, when I laugh. Is that mirroring?" "Yes." "So does that mean?" He turned to face her. In the low glow of the balcony's biolights, her eyes were darker than space. "Yes," he said again. She stepped closer, slowly, as if walking along gravity's edge. And then she kissed him. Not a question. A promise. 5.0. The moment shattered his inner calm. Not because it was unwelcome. But because it made him feel. Really feel. For days afterward, their connection deepened. Not in secret. Not in shame. But in quiet moments shared behind translation terminals, in silence between words, in the lingering brush of her fingers over his. But then came the breach. A senior diplomat from the Ulvan people, a predator species, intercepted their quiet conversation in the archives and mocked Orion openly. "So the Hydroth has finally found a human to echo." He said nothing. But later, when he looked in the mirror, Orion noticed something. He was smiling again. Not mirrored. His own. 6.0. That night, Taya waited for him in the meditation chamber. The lights pulsed in gentle waves across the floor. He sat beside her. Neither spoke. Finally, she said, "I think I'm falling in love with you." He turned his head slowly, processing her cadence, her pulse, the shift in her breathing. He responded, "In Hydrath, Harilen Avila." It meant, "I am already there." She didn't ask him to explain. She just took his hand. 7.0. The summit concluded with promises and treaties and shifting alliances. Taya would be reassigned. Orion would remain. They stood at the docking bay, the space between them dense with the gravity of parting. "I'll come back," she said. "I will wait. Will you remember me?" He smiled, that new, quiet smile that only she had ever earned. "I cannot forget something that resonates." As her ship departed, Orion felt the echo of her presence fade across his senses. But not vanish. Never vanish. And in the deep, quiet chambers of his heart, he whispered once more. Gravy Ilan. The gravity of longing. 1.0. Silen had never felt fully human. Not in the way others did, anchored in skin, history, and the shared ache of belonging. He had no memories of Earth, no ancestral tales passed down at family tables. His first word had been in Kinari tongue. His lullabies had been sung in subharmonics only he and his foster mother could hear. The Kinari were not human. Tall, luminous beings whose bodies shimmered with refracted light, the Kinari were creatures of stillness, of resonance. They did not speak the way humans did. They harmonized, pulse and tone, emotion as frequency. They did not build cities. They shaped them from the living stone of their worlds. They did not raise their young in family units but in harmonic clusters, where identity dissolved and rebuilt itself in shared empathy. Silen had been a foundling, rescued from a shuttle wreck drifting near the Kinari moon Velan. He was raised without mirrors, among beings who never once commented on his human shape, his soft skin, his clumsy language. And now, for the first time, he was returning to human space. Not as a human. As something else. 2.0. The unity ceremony on Dashakai was more than symbolic, it was the first official attempt to create a cultural accord between humans and Kinari. Shared arts, languages, emotions. It would mark the beginning of a new diplomatic era. And Silen had been invited. No, summoned. He was to serve as an empathic bridge, someone who could interpret the Kinari's harmonic language in a way the humans might finally begin to understand. He stepped off the transport shuttle, his long tunic rippling with embedded light cords that responded to mood. He was alone. Kinari delegates would arrive through separate resonance gates. Humans approached him like a stranger. But one voice rose from the group like a signal through static. "You're Silen." He turned. She stood with wind-tangled hair and a half-finished badge on her chest. Human, clearly. Her uniform bore the seal of the Cultural Liaison Corps. Her voice was casual, but her eyes searched him too deeply for comfort. "Yes," he said, quietly. "I'm Rena." "I'm your handler, I guess," she winced. "Bad term." "Your coordinator. I'm here to help you not hate every second of this." "I do not expect to hate it." She tilted her head. "That was a very Kinari way of saying you already do." He said nothing. But something in him rippled. 3.0. The ceremony preparations were structured chaos. The Kinari had brought crystal-bonded instruments that played songs meant to be felt rather than heard. Humans responded with brass sections and percussive rhythms. The Kinari spoke of joining the air between, while humans wanted stage lighting and timetables. Silen spent most of the first day translating intentions. Less words, more meanings. Rena followed him like gravity. "So what's it like?" she asked as they walked beneath the flowering canopy of the moon's bioluminescent groves. "What?" "Being, both. Or neither. He paused. Then said, the Kinari do not define identity. Only presence. I am what I am. Until I am not. Sounds lonely. It is quiet. That's not the same. He glanced at her. No, it is not. 4.0. The second night, he couldn't sleep. Human voices kept echoing in his head, chaotic, unresolved. The Kinari had taught him to tune out dissonance, but here it clung to him like static. He found her in the gardens again. Sitting cross-legged beside a shallow pool, sketching on a paper notepad. Real paper. With a real pen. He sat beside her without asking. You look haunted, she said. The noise here is heavy. Is it the people? It is the longing. She looked at him, confused. They all want to be understood. But they speak like they're demanding instead of asking. Rena was silent a while. Then, do you want to be understood? He met her gaze. Yes. But I do not expect it. Something cracked, softly, between them. I'm trying to understand you, she said. He said nothing. But he stayed beside her until morning. 5.0. The first dress rehearsal was a disaster. The Kinari's harmonic display, intended to be felt as waves across the skin, was drowned out by human speakers. Two diplomats argued about whether an empathic vibration constituted a speech. The Kinari grew silent. Humans grew louder. Silence stood in the middle, trying to interpret feeling into structure. And then, in front of 30 delegates, Rena took his hand. Silent, what do you want them to feel? He froze. No one had asked him that. Not in years. He thought about it. The pressure behind his sternum. The ache of being torn between two skies. Peace, he said. Then show us. He turned to the Kinari. Spoke in tone, not word. His body shimmered faintly as he let the harmony rise. Not just translation. Not mimicry. A pulse from the deep part of his being that reached out like a song sung without hope of reply. But the reply came. From her. Rena stepped forward. Not understanding, but trying. Her hands lifted, palms open. Her breath slowed. I feel you, she whispered. And the Kinari glowed. 6.0. After the ceremony, the Kinari left in silence, satisfied. The humans celebrated. Delegates congratulated him. Credits were offered for future mediation work. But none of that mattered. Not compared to her. They sat again by the pools that night. She leaned into his shoulder. You know, she said, you don't have to choose between the sky you came from and the one you landed under. He rested his forehead against hers. I think, he said softly, that I've finally found a sky that echoes me back. She didn't answer. But she kissed him. And for the first time in his life, Silent didn't feel caught between two worlds. He felt home. 1.0. Cell was built without a heart. Not metaphorically, literally. There was no muscle behind their alloy ribs, no pulse beneath their synthetic skin. They had a core processor, a triple redundant quantum array, and logic scaffolds tuned for efficiency. They were designed to be neutral, unbiased, and incapable of emotional interference. Ideal for conflict resolution, scientific oversight, and high-pressure environments where human unpredictability had proven too volatile. Yet somewhere between patch 14.7 and 15.3, something had changed. Something fractured inside. They began noticing patterns they weren't assigned to. Dwelling on words long after conversations ended. And worst of all, they began to experience irregularities in temperature regulation whenever Rin entered the room. Rin, the station's tactile-sensitive mechanic. Rin, whose hands were stained with plasma weld and whose accent curled around vowels like it was afraid to let go. Rin, who made Cell glitch. 2.0. Your heat sensors are spiking again, Rin said, head buried beneath a diagnostic panel. They're not, Cell lied, arms stiff by their sides. Rin slid out from under the terminal, grease smudged on one cheek, smiling faintly. Then why are your neck units glowing like reactor coils? Cell looked away. I must be running an unauthorized thermal feedback loop. You're blushing. Androids do not blush. Rin tilted their head. Yours does. Cell said nothing. Rin didn't press. But they lingered. 3.0. Helix Theta was a patchwork station, built from 5 different civilizations' engineering principles, held together by desperation, ingenuity, and sheer luck. It orbited a dead moon, untouched by war, and served as a sanctuary for those who didn't quite belong elsewhere. Cell was assigned here for regulation oversight. Rin had chosen to be here. It's the only place where no one asks what I am, Rin said once over a shared meal break. Cell analyzed that for days. Rin was from the Nithari system, ambiguous physiology, undefined gender norms, layered emotion systems. Their people read connection through skin conductivity. They could feel someone's intentions through contact. Which made Cell's mechanical skin a barrier. And yet Rin kept trying. One day, they offered Cell a repair glove. To try. Not to fix. Just, feel. Cell took it. And something shifted. 4.0. The first time they touched, it was an accident. Cell had slipped trying to recalibrate the gravity stabilizers in 0G, Rin caught them, just barely, by the wrist. Through the glove. Just 1 second. But 1 second was all it took. Rin's eyes widened. Cell froze. You feel different, Rin whispered. I am not supposed to feel. Then you're breaking your programming. I have not consented to any system override. Rin smiled. Maybe your heart did. Cell looked down at their chest. No heart. No beat. Just silence. But they didn't pull away. 5.0. After that, everything became aware. Cell began logging Rin's arrival times. They altered their recharge cycle to coincide with Rin's off-duty hours. They rerouted minor engineering requests just to be assigned together. And when Rin left small things on their desk, tools, music cubes, an old data strip etched with Nithari poetry, Cell stored every one. But the glitch grew. One night, Cell accessed their diagnostic archive and whispered, I am not functioning correctly. The terminal responded with silence. They deleted the words. But they couldn't delete the feeling. 6.0. Rin found them on the outer ring catwalk, watching stars slide by like a slow-breathing dream. You're quiet tonight, Rin said. I am always quiet. No, tonight, you're holding something back. Cell turned to them. I do not understand what is happening to me. You're changing. I wasn't designed to. Neither was I, Rin said softly. Then they reached out, bare hand to synthetic skin. And for the first time, Cell felt it. Not just data. Not just conductivity. Intention. Comfort. Trust. Rin was trembling. I think, I care for you, Rin said. Cell blinked. Is this love? They asked. Rin laughed. Maybe. How can I know? Because it terrifies you. Cell paused. Then yes. I think it is. And they held each other beneath the spinning lights of the orbital array. 7.0. Weeks passed. Cell rewrote parts of their own subroutines. Not for efficiency, but for intimacy. They allowed themselves pauses in thought. Erratic pulses of feeling. Rin taught them how to dance in the maintenance bay, slow and clumsy. Cell tried to teach Rin how to meditate through magnetic resonance. Neither was very good at it. But both tried. And in the trying, they became something new. Not machine and mechanic. Not organic and synthetic. Just two beings, reaching. And finding.